For years, scientists told us that interstellar visitors were rare, natural wanderers, just fragments of ice and rock drifting between stars. But what if that was never true? What if one of those visitors wasn't drifting at all, but steering? Something is moving through our solar system, and it's not what they told us it was. It's called 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever detected, and it's doing things no natural body should be able to do. Its trajectory is too precise, its energy patterns too deliberate, and its behavior too intelligent. When the James Webb Space Telescope turned its gaze toward this mysterious traveler, the results shook the scientific community to its core. It wasn't just another comet. Webb's instruments revealed an object that defies the laws of physics, one that seems engineered rather than formed by chance. A body the size of Manhattan, weighing over 72 trillion pounds, with a jet of gas not pushed away from the sun, but aimed directly at it. Every observation adds a new layer of impossibility. It doesn't contain the chemical recipe of any known comet. Its light bends wrong. Its surface behaves as though it were built from materials that manipulate radiation itself. And now, with its trajectory aligning perfectly with the WOW signal, that mysterious radio message from 1977, the evidence no longer points to coincidence. It points to intention. For decades, the idea that we might already be under observation was dismissed as fantasy. But as 3I Atlas closes in on its closest approach to the sun, the James Webb Telescope has given us confirmation that this object is exactly what we feared all along. Not a visitor, but a design. And if that's true, then the question isn't what is it? It's why is it here? When astronomers first plotted the course of 3I Atlas, they expected the usual chaos that comes with an interstellar object, a wild, tumbling trajectory slicing through our system at odd angles. But what they found instead made no sense. The object's orbit was too perfect, too deliberate, following the exact plane of the planets, the same flat disk that holds Earth, Mars, and the rest of the solar system in motion. Statistically, this alignment has a probability of less than 1 in 500, meaning it should almost never happen by chance. Objects entering from interstellar space don't follow these rules. They cut across the solar plane at steep angles, pulled by random gravitational interactions. Yet 3I Atlas entered as if it had read a map, sliding into the ecliptic like a spacecraft approaching a destination it already knew. Its orbital inclination measured just 5 degrees, a near-perfect match with the sun's equatorial plane. For scientists, that precision was the first sign that something about this object wasn't random. At first, researchers tried to explain it away. Maybe a distant gravitational encounter had nudged it into this improbable course. Maybe sheer coincidence had placed it in our orbital plane. But then, the details started to pile up. 3I Atlas wasn't simply aligned. It was behaving as though it were navigating. Every time telescopes recalculated its path, the numbers remained eerily stable, without the chaotic deviations expected from an unbound comet fragment. Its motion wasn't just precise, it was controlled. This behavior sparked quiet panic among orbital dynamicists. Natural bodies are slaves to gravity. They don't pick their routes. Yet 3I Atlas appeared to be following a predefined vector, a corridor that took it sequentially near Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, 3 of the most gravitationally significant bodies in the inner solar system. Each flyby looked less like coincidence and more like a trajectory plan, as if 3I Atlas were conducting a systematic survey of planetary orbits. Even more suspicious was its velocity. The object maintained a remarkably steady speed throughout its journey, deviating by only a fraction of what solar radiation pressure should cause. Such stability suggested active compensation, something adjusting its momentum to preserve a specific route. Natural objects don't do that. Spacecraft do. Scientists across multiple observatories began whispering what few dared to say aloud. This wasn't a random visitor. The odds of an interstellar object aligning this precisely with our solar plane and maintaining such a calculated trajectory were effectively zero. The data didn't describe a rock, it described a mission profile. Still, official statements avoided those words. Agencies like NASA and ESA labeled the anomaly as unusual, non-standard, or currently under investigation. But behind closed doors, Teams working with orbital models privately admitted that 3I Atlas was flying like it had a purpose. Every new measurement reinforced the same impossible truth, that this object wasn't just in the solar system. It was moving through it with precision that no comet should possess. And for many astronomers, the realization was both thrilling and terrifying. If 3I Atlas had chosen this path, then maybe it wasn't the first time it had been here. Once 3I Atlas was confirmed as a new interstellar visitor, all eyes turned to the most powerful observatory humanity had ever built, the James Webb Space Telescope. Its infrared instruments, capable of piercing through cosmic dust and revealing the hidden composition of distant worlds, were redirected toward this enigmatic traveler. Scientists expected to find the usual: volatile ices, traces of water, and dust, the typical signature of a comet from beyond our system. Instead, the Webb's sensors returned something that shouldn't exist. The telescope's data painted a picture that defied every established law of cometary physics. The object was far too massive, far too organized, and far too structured for anything of natural origin. At over 3 kilometers in diameter and weighing an estimated 72 trillion pounds, 3I Atlas dwarfed all previously observed interstellar objects. Oumuamua and Borisov, the only 2 others ever recorded, suddenly seemed insignificant beside this colossus. It wasn't a fragment or a stray. It was a monolith, moving with purpose and precision. But size was just the beginning. The Webb's instruments detected something even more shocking: a jet of gas erupting from the object. But instead of pointing away from the sun, as every comet in history has done, this one was aimed directly toward it. The discovery made no sense. Comets naturally vent gases as they heat up, ejecting material away from the solar radiation that's melting their icy surfaces. But 3I Atlas's emission was inverted. A narrow, collimated stream of material shooting into the solar wind, defying every thermodynamic expectation. The team tried to rationalize it. Maybe a rotation anomaly was causing a trick of perspective, a visual illusion. But when the Webb repeated its observation weeks later, the same phenomenon appeared again, identical in shape, brightness, and direction. The jet wasn't random, and it wasn't weak. It was precise. 10 times longer than it was wide, consistent with the behavior of a directed exhaust, not a chaotic outburst. To maintain that shape, the object would need a mechanism, an energy source regulating pressure, temperature, and composition. In other words, propulsion. That word sent shockwaves through the research community. No natural process could generate a jet like this, one that pushes toward the sun rather than away. If it wasn't an accident of physics, then it was a function, a deliberate action. The Webb's spectrographic readings reinforced that suspicion. The gases within the jet weren't ordinary. They were dominated by carbon dioxide and nickel, with almost no trace of water vapor, a chemical signature alien to all known comets. The absence of water was the final blow to the natural theory. Every comet ever observed carries large amounts of frozen H2O. It's what defines them. But 3I Atlas seemed built of something else entirely, something engineered to resist heat, absorb energy, and emit gases selectively. Its metallic signature, the heavy concentration of nickel, suggested industrial alloying, not cosmic chemistry. When the findings were first reported, they were met with disbelief. Yet the data was indisputable. The James Webb Telescope had captured the image of an object that broke the laws of cometary science, a body capable of controlling its motion through directed jets and surviving intense radiation without disintegration. The press release never used the word artificial, but every researcher who reviewed the data saw it between the lines. The Webb hadn't just discovered another interstellar rock, it had unveiled evidence of design. And as the light from 3I Atlas continued to flicker across Webb's sensors, one conclusion grew impossible to ignore. This wasn't a mistake of nature. It was a mechanism, operating with purpose, precision, and intent. When the James Webb Space Telescope completed its initial imaging run of 3I Atlas, scientists expected to find a small, irregular body, a frozen wanderer no bigger than a city block. But the telescope's high-resolution analysis delivered numbers that shattered every assumption. The interstellar object was massive, far beyond anything that should exist drifting freely through space. Calculations showed it to be more than 3 kilometers in diameter, with an estimated mass exceeding 72 trillion pounds. That figure was so extreme that the Webb's calibration systems were double-checked, twice. The results didn't change. To put this into perspective, 3I Atlas is thousands of times larger than both of its predecessors, Oumuamua and Borisov, the only two interstellar objects ever recorded before it. While those bodies measured only a few hundred meters across, 3I Atlas is on an entirely different scale, a small mountain silently crossing the solar system. Its sheer mass alone raised immediate questions about how such an object could even exist. Natural interstellar fragments are expected to be small and irregular, the leftovers of planetary collisions or ejected debris from dying stars. They are not stable enough to survive the violent conditions of interstellar space for millions of years. Yet 3I Atlas was intact, showing no signs of fragmentation or decay. It wasn't shedding material like a comet. Its structure remained solid and uniform, with no tail, no debris field, nothing to suggest erosion or instability. The Webb's readings suggested an almost impossible level of structural integrity, as if the object were reinforced from within. Its brightness didn't fluctuate wildly as it rotated, meaning its shape was remarkably symmetrical. Another anomaly. Most comets tumble chaotically, producing irregular flashes of light as their uneven surfaces reflect the sun. 3I Atlas, however, displayed consistent luminosity, like a geometrically balanced form, the kind of uniformity you would expect not from a rock, but from an engineered structure. This combination, enormous mass, perfect stability, and symmetry, made it statistically impossible for 3I Atlas to be a random fragment of nature. According to orbital models, an object that size traveling through interstellar space would have faced countless impacts over millions of years, eroding its surface and distorting its form. And yet, the Webb's imaging showed no evidence of major craters or uneven surfaces. It was smooth, resilient, and unyielding, as though built to last forever. Scientists ran the probability models again. What are the odds of an interstellar body of this size, density, and stability entering our solar system by chance? The results were shocking, less than 1 in 10 billion. It wasn't just rare, it was impossible without intervention. The sheer magnitude of 3I Atlas began to reframe the entire discussion. This wasn't just an outlier, it was a statement. A body of such mass and precision could only exist if something had either created it or maintained it. Its size allowed it to withstand gravitational interactions without losing trajectory. Its density suggested not porous rock, but metallic composition, perhaps even internal reinforcement. As one researcher put it, if this thing were built, not born, then we're looking at the first artificial world we've ever seen. The conclusion was terrifying in its simplicity. 3I Atlas wasn't just big, it was too big to be an accident. A natural object that large shouldn't exist, and if it does, it shouldn't move with such control or coherence. Yet here it was, a silent colossus crossing our solar system, ignoring the laws of nature as if those laws didn't apply to it. The universe had just revealed something monumental, a visitor of impossible proportions that may not just have entered our neighborhood, but might have been built to find it. For decades, one mysterious event has haunted astronomers. A single radio pulse detected on August 15, 1977, by the Big Ear Radio Observatory in Ohio. It lasted just 72 seconds, carried an unmistakably artificial frequency, and then vanished forever. The astronomer who found it circled the data printout and wrote one word beside it: WOW. Since then, the WOW signal has remained the most credible candidate for an extraterrestrial transmission ever recorded. But there was one problem. No one knew where it came from. Until now. When researchers traced the inbound trajectory of 3I Atlas, they realized something that sent a chill through every observatory involved. The direction from which this massive interstellar object entered our solar system was almost identical to the coordinates of the WOW signal's origin. The alignment wasn't vague. It fell within 9 degrees of the same celestial coordinates recorded in 1977. For context, that's closer than the apparent width of your palm held at arm's length. In cosmic terms, it was practically the same spot. At first, scientists dismissed the connection as coincidence, but the deeper they dug, the less random it seemed. The odds that an interstellar object would enter from that exact region of space, the same narrow band where humanity's first possible extraterrestrial message was detected, turned out to be less than 1%. In other words, statistically impossible to ignore. The realization forced a radical question. What if the WOW signal wasn't a random transmission at all, but a beacon, and 3I Atlas was its source? The timeline fit eerily well. The WOW signal arrived 48 years before the detection of 3I Atlas. If the object had been traveling toward our solar system since that time, it would have been positioned just beyond detection range when the signal reached Earth. That meant the signal could have been a message sent in advance, a kind of cosmic ping announcing its arrival, a signature from the very region it emerged from decades later. Even more unsettling was the nature of both phenomena. The WOW signal was narrowband, focused, and structured, attributes no natural source has ever produced. And 3I Atlas, as observed by the James Webb Telescope, exhibits behavior and design that are equally unnatural: controlled motion, engineered materials, and directed energy emissions. Together, they form a pattern too specific to be ignored: a signal and then a visitor. Astrophysicists began to re-examine the WOW data with modern AI reconstruction algorithms, mapping its frequency patterns and duration against 3I Atlas's velocity and inbound angle. The results were startling. The 1977 pulse, when projected backward across time and space, intersected perfectly with the region from which 3I Atlas must have begun its journey. In essence, the object had come from the exact same corridor as the signal, as if following the echo of its own transmission. Skeptics argued that it was all an illusion, a trick of probability magnified by human imagination. But for many others, the alignment was too exact, too elegant. The odds of both events, separated by nearly half a century, sharing such precise coordinates were about 1 in 200. To scientists who study cosmic probability, that number is astronomical. It's as though the universe itself left breadcrumbs. A single radio whisper in 1977, and then, decades later, an object from the same region entering our solar system, silent, but speaking through its motion. If 3I Atlas and the WOW signal are truly connected, then humanity may have just witnessed the continuation of a conversation that began long before we realized someone was talking. And if that's the case, the question isn't whether we're being observed, it's whether we were invited. As 3I Atlas continued its silent journey across the inner solar system, scientists began to notice something far more deliberate in its motion, a pattern that didn't match the chaotic, aimless drift of a natural body. Its trajectory wasn't a simple pass. It was a sequence, a calculated route that brought it near multiple planets: Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, one after another, like a probe running a survey. This unusual orbital choreography sparked a theory so bold that it initially seemed impossible. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just visiting? What if it was deploying? The idea, now whispered among astrophysicists as the cosmic Trojan horse hypothesis, proposed that 3I Atlas might be an interstellar reconnaissance vehicle, a probe disguised as a comet or asteroid, using the natural chaos of space to conceal its purpose. And its sequential planetary flybys weren't random gravitational encounters, they were opportunities. Each pass by a world with an atmosphere or magnetic field could allow for data collection, mapping, or even the release of smaller autonomous devices. The geometry of its path supported this unsettling thought. Instead of traveling prograde, in the same direction as the planets, 3I Atlas moved retrograde, against the natural flow of the solar system. That single fact was enough to make physicists pause. Retrograde motion demands enormous energy. No comet should have the capability to maintain it. Yet for 3I Atlas, it appeared effortless, as though it had chosen its route intentionally. Simulations by orbital analysts revealed something even stranger. Each planetary encounter along its path was perfectly optimized to use the target's gravity as a slingshot, not to escape the system quickly, but to linger, adjusting its vector just enough to cross the orbits of key planets in succession. To perform that kind of maneuver naturally would be like flipping a coin and having it land on its edge 10 times in a row. It wasn't random, it was calculated. The pattern evoked a chilling analogy from ancient history, the story of the Trojan horse. Just as the Greeks hid warriors inside a wooden gift to infiltrate the walls of Troy, some scientists began wondering if 3I Atlas was using its comet-like disguise to conceal technology. After all, from a distance, it behaved like a comet, reflecting light, venting gas, showing traces of activity. But its internal chemistry, its mass, and its impossible control hinted that the illusion might be masking something else. What if, during each close planetary pass, 3I Atlas was shedding microprobes, fragments designed to disperse across the solar system, slipping into orbit around planets or moons undetected? With today's technology, humanity could already build probes small enough to go unnoticed. A civilization thousands or millions of years ahead could do so with perfection. Such devices could remain dormant for decades or centuries, quietly monitoring radiation, magnetic fields, or even biological signatures. Skeptics dismissed the theory as science fiction, but even they couldn't deny how eerily precise the object's route was. Its orbit wasn't random, it was efficient, conserving momentum like a craft guided by design. Each planetary encounter fit into a mathematical pattern optimized for maximum data coverage of the inner solar system. One researcher from the European Space Agency put it bluntly: if 3I Atlas is natural, it's the luckiest piece of rock in the universe. If it isn't, then we're looking at an interstellar probe executing a reconnaissance mission right in front of us. The idea that this object might be more than a visitor, that it could be an observer, forced scientists to rethink everything about its purpose. Its path didn't resemble escape, it resembled intelligence at work. And if this was true, then 3I Atlas wasn't the first step of contact. It was the Trojan horse, already inside the gates of our solar system. Every orbit has a climax, the moment when a celestial body draws closest to the sun, absorbing its energy and revealing its deepest secrets. For 3I Atlas, that moment is coming. Astronomers call it perihelion, and according to Webb's calculations, the event will occur on October 29, 2025, the day this colossal interstellar traveler reaches its nearest approach to our star. The world's space agencies are preparing for it as though it were an astronomical eclipse and a once-in-history experiment rolled into one. Because whatever happens during those days may determine whether 3I Atlas is a comet, a probe, or something else entirely. In the weeks leading up to this encounter, the object will cross regions of intense solar radiation and gravitational stress, conditions that would shred any natural comet to pieces. Yet, if the data gathered so far is any indication, 3I Atlas won't disintegrate. Instead, scientists expect it to remain stable, possibly even reacting to the sun's increasing energy with the same controlled emissions the Webb has already observed. Some predict that this moment could activate new behaviors, signals, jets, or frequency pulses, revealing the mechanism that drives it. The stakes couldn't be higher. For the first time, multiple interplanetary observatories will simultaneously observe an interstellar object in real time, each capturing a different aspect: chemical composition, magnetic behavior, and optical structure. If even one of these readings confirms what many already suspect, that 3I Atlas doesn't behave like a natural body, it would mark the first verified discovery of non-human technology in the history of astronomy. But beyond the scientific anticipation, there's an undeniable sense of unease. This approach isn't just an opportunity for observation, it's a test. How the object behaves under the sun's most intense radiation could reveal whether it's designed for resilience, propulsion, or communication. Some theorists even speculate that perihelion might act as a trigger, awakening a dormant system that only activates under specific solar conditions. As the countdown ticks toward that October date, the world's telescopes are aligning, and the data streams are already being prepared. Humanity stands on the edge of discovery, staring at a visitor that might finally answer, or rewrite, one of the oldest questions in science. Are we alone? Because if 3I Atlas truly is what the evidence suggests, then October 29th won't just be another solar encounter. It will be the moment we realize that the sun, our star, may have just illuminated a machine from another civilization. By late 2025, as 3I Atlas drew nearer to the sun and the world's telescopes focused their eyes on its metallic silhouette, a growing unease began to take root within the scientific community. The data had become impossible to deny. Every new observation dismantled another piece of the comet explanation. Researchers could no longer hide behind probability curves or convenient words like anomaly. What they were facing wasn't one improbability, it was seven. Seven independent impossibilities that, when combined, defied the logic of nature itself. Each of these anomalies alone would have been enough to raise suspicion, but together they formed a pattern so precise it could only suggest one thing: intentional design. The first impossibility was its colossal size, over 3 kilometers across, with a mass exceeding 72 trillion pounds. No interstellar object that massive should have survived the violent journey through galactic space. Micrometeorite impacts, radiation, and gravitational tides should have torn it apart eons ago. Yet 3I Atlas was whole, stable, and flawless, as if built to endure eternity. The second was the inverted jet, the beam of gas shooting directly toward the sun. Every known comet vents gas away from solar radiation, driven by heat. But this object projected material inward, defying thermodynamics. To maintain that jet's direction and collimation, the structure would require precise energy regulation, something that sounded far more like a propulsion system than an outgassing accident. The third was its chemical composition, the absence of water, replaced by carbon dioxide and nickel, an unearthly ratio. In every known comet, frozen water is abundant. Here, there was almost none. Instead, Webb detected materials that resembled industrial alloys, the fingerprints of metallurgy, not geology. The high nickel content, surpassing iron, mirrored the alloys used in spacecraft heat shields and turbine blades. The fourth impossibility was its polarization pattern. The light reflected from 3I Atlas displayed extreme negative polarization, the kind seen only in laboratory materials engineered to scatter light in controlled ways. The surface wasn't random dust and ice. It behaved like a network of structured microlayers designed to interact with solar radiation intelligently. The fifth anomaly was its orbital alignment. An interstellar object should enter the solar system from a random direction. Instead, 3I Atlas followed the ecliptic, the same plane where all the planets orbit, with a deviation of only 5 degrees. Statistically, the chance of this alignment happening by accident was less than 0.2%. It moved as if it understood the structure of the solar system before it ever arrived. The sixth impossibility was its planetary trajectory, a sequence of flybys that traced the orbits of Mars, Venus, and Jupiter in order, each pass positioned for maximum gravitational efficiency. This was not the erratic route of a drifting rock. It was the deliberate path of a reconnaissance mission. And finally, the seventh impossibility, the one that left even the most skeptical scientists silent, was its link to the WOW signal. The coordinates of its entry point matched the location of the 1977 radio pulse within 9 degrees. The odds of that alignment occurring randomly? Just over 0.5%. A coincidence so precise that it no longer felt like coincidence at all. Individually, these phenomena might have been dismissed as statistical quirks. Together, they told a story too structured to be random. The mathematics of probability simply collapsed under their weight. A team from the European Southern Observatory calculated that the odds of all 7 occurring simultaneously in a natural object were less than 1 in 10 to the 21st power, a probability so low it might as well be 0. That's when the paradigm shifted. The conversation stopped being about what 3I Atlas was and began to focus on who built it and why. Theories emerged in hushed tones. Some claimed it could be a probe from a long-extinct civilization, silently gathering data on evolving star systems. Others believed it might be an automated seed, a self-replicating mechanism released eons ago, drifting between galaxies to observe, catalog, and perhaps awaken when conditions were right. But one interpretation stood above the rest, that 3I Atlas was never meant to reveal itself. Its precision, its silence, its improbable perfection all pointed to surveillance, not contact. Humanity hadn't intercepted it. We had simply looked close enough to finally see it. When 3I Atlas first appeared, humanity saw it as just another interstellar rock, a frozen fragment from a distant system drifting harmlessly through our skies. But as the James Webb Space Telescope began to peel away the layers of its mystery, that illusion crumbled. What we found was not chaos, but architecture. Not randomness, but intention. Every piece of evidence, its precision trajectory, its inverted jet, its unnatural chemistry, and its perfect symmetry, whispered the same impossible truth. This object wasn't born of nature. It was made, designed, sent. Whether by a civilization long extinct or by something that still watches the stars, no one knows. But 3I Atlas stands as proof that we are not the first to reach across the void. The alignment with the WOW signal, the calculated planetary flybys, and the 7 impossibilities that defied all known physics forced scientists to face a terrifying possibility: that we are not observers in this story. We are the observed. Every model, every trajectory, every energy reading points to the same conclusion. 3I Atlas behaves exactly like an autonomous probe, scanning, mapping, and transmitting. And yet, it has made no attempt to communicate. No message, no greeting, only silence. That silence may be the message itself. Perhaps 3I Atlas wasn't sent to talk to us, but to measure us. To record how a young civilization reacts when it first stares into the face of something it cannot explain. Maybe it has passed through countless systems before ours, watching each one reach the same breaking point between wonder and fear. As the countdown to its closest solar approach ticks down, the world's observatories wait for the moment the sun illuminates it in full. If it is what the evidence suggests, a relic of technology, a machine built to endure time and fire, then our species is about to witness something monumental, proof that intelligence is not unique to Earth. But the revelation carries a warning. If 3I Atlas truly is a probe, ancient, automated, and enduring, then its creators have already mastered the forces that bind the stars. And civilizations that wield such power don't build machines for curiosity alone. They build them for continuity. Maybe it came to observe. Maybe it came to remind us that the universe is older, smarter, and stranger than we ever imagined. Or maybe it came because it's always been here, circling, waiting, watching. As scientists prepare for October 29, 2025, one question remains, one that no data can answer. When 3I Atlas finally faces the sun and the truth is exposed, will we be the ones making the discovery or the ones being discovered? And if that day comes, one thing is certain. After 3I Atlas, humanity will never again look at the night sky the same way. Because somewhere out there, in the dark between stars, something is still watching back.